Hello and welcome back to another Death Count gaming video. Today I will be reviewing Rogue Warrior on the Xbox 360, a game that I have just currently beaten in my recent Death Count gaming videos. Unlike the average review, I actually rate games a bit differently. I judge the game into 5 categories and give each a score out of 10, and after each category gets a score, I take all the scores and put an average on how good the game truly is. These categories are story, difficulty, graphics, gameplay, and my personal opinion. Now that we know the system, let's begin the review. Rogue Warrior is about a skilled soldier who is tasked with breaking into North Korea and looking into what they're doing with their missile program. This game is set right in the middle of the Cold War, making the situation and mission more tense. Right as the mission begins, things go terribly wrong and his team is completely killed off, leaving him the only one left. But instead of falling back as instructed, he charges forward and continues the mission anyways. What follows next is some of the most violent, swearing-filled moments I've ever played in a video game, with some of the most memorable insults I've ever heard. This also leads to the discovery that forces this rogue warrior, if you will, to ignore orders and end the potentially war-winning situation that he has uncovered. I won't say any more of this in case you want to play or in case you don't want this spoiled for yourself, so I'll just leave this as that. In general, this is an easy to follow story which is well told and well, it's really good to be honest. So with all this in mind, I'm going to give the game an 8 out of 10 for story. Graphically, this game looks good all around, and somewhat realistic in general. That's not to say this is a perfect looking game, as most of the graphics come down to good looking textures that just cover everything. Also, glitches and some strange assassination cutscenes that play in the game can happen if you get too close to an enemy in the wrong position. However, as the game stands, it looks really well, with colors and textures used matching the theme and tone of the story overall. The enemies and weapons all look and move in a somewhat realistic manner as well, but even after all this, the game looks graphically good just in general. So with all of this in mind, this is why I'm going to give the game an 8 out of 10 for graphics. This game isn't really difficult at all, however the mass amount of enemies in some levels definitely give some challenge and give you a fight to survive. Unlike all the other games I've actually played, this one, out of every single one, actually has a difficulty setting. And in my playthrough, I actually chose the easiest difficulty. Even after doing this, I still had some challenge, dying regularly here and there. I know this game can be hard if you want it to be, but for me it was difficult enough on easy. This was a mildly challenging game, but it was fun as well and really funny, all the way through. So with all of this in mind, I'm going to have to give the game a minimum score of 6 out of 10 for difficulty. As for the gameplay, the controls are easy and simple to get, being exactly like every other shooter on the Xbox. There was nothing you had to learn, nothing different, no change, just the same basic controls of every other shooter game. The movement and the assassinations were also responsive as well, but what I do wish most of all is that there was a slightly better AI in the game, as in most of the cases, the enemy just hid behind cover when I was easily able to shoot him with no problem. That's just a really big problem in my book when it comes to the AI. They just couldn't see, hey, I can see you. No, there was, yeah, it was just strange. Also, with all of the game's grandeur, I wish the world was more open than what it was. Everything just had one path, one road you had to follow. Just go down here for the train. There was no choice, no option for how to approach anything. Just go here, one path. Like a rails shooter. Without the rails, you know what I mean. It was still fun, but in my view, that's just the one thing that possibly ruined this great overall game. So, with all of this in mind, this is why I'm going to have to give the game a 7 out of 10 for gameplay. This game is really good and funny all around. The music never got annoying either, keeping at an ever even pace, driving you forward as you do the assassinations or you planted the bomb. Whatever the objective, the music was the thing that pushed you forward, as well as with the comedy and pacing. The overall action and the actual pacing of the game was also really good, keeping everything in line. But in general, what really sold the game was the high violence added with the funny insults and creative way they just mixed the two together. It was just perfect all around in my books. They mixed them together perfectly, and this is why I personally believe this game deserves an 8 out of 10, in my opinion. In general, what we have here is a really funny, violent game that I believe doesn't take itself seriously at all. I think some people may take offense to this game because it's set in North Korea and then they go to Russia, and so people from there might find offense, but to be honest, I believe it was really funny and really good. Though it may not have the best graphics in the world or have the greatest story, it is easily understood as to what is happening, and most importantly, it is fun to play, which is what a game should achieve. So this is why the game deserves an overall score of 7.4 out of 10. And in case you missed my gameplay videos, I fared a total of 26 deaths in the hour and 58 minutes it took for me to beat this game. And if you want to check out that 8-part series I did on the game, I'd be very grateful. Otherwise, thank you for watching this review, and I will see you again in the next Death Count Gaming video.
Son of a bitch.
Say again, Marcinko.
Bad fucking juju, Admiral.